Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because, well, you want to get a solid understanding of things right, quickly and thoroughly.
Yeah, cut through the noise, get right to the heart of it.
Exactly. So today we're diving headfirst into a pretty fascinating lecture by Neville Goddard. It's called Love Divided from Imagination.
Right, and this was delivered way back October 27th, 1967.
Yeah, quite a while ago.
And you shared some key excerpts from this lecture. So our mission today really is to explore what Goddard's actually saying about imagination.
Okay.
And maybe more specifically, how he sees its vital connection to love.
Ah, okay. Love and imagination.
Yeah, and what that means for, your own ability to change yourself, maybe change how you see the world around you.
Okay, let's unpack this then. So right off the bat, Goddard presents imagination as a gift, but not just fluffy daydreaming. He sees it as a genuine power we have.
The power to do what exactly?
To actively shape a better reality. And interestingly, not just for ourselves, but for others too. He really stresses it's not about being selfish or anything, but about using this power for forgiveness and real deep inner transformation.
Right.
And here's where it gets, really interesting. He makes this really absolute statement. He says, and I'm quoting here, "All things exist in the human imagination," and I mean that literally.
Wow. Literally. That's
Yeah.
that's a cornerstone of his whole philosophy, isn't it?
Seems like it.
He's not saying imagination is some, separate make-believe world. He's saying it's the actual foundation of everything.
Everything that is.
Yeah. So for you listening, this isn't just some abstract idea. It means, you have a direct hand in shaping every single aspect of your experience.
Both internal and external.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is, powerful, but also maybe a bit daunting, a big responsibility.
Definitely. He then brings in that biblical question, shall I not drink of the cup which the Father has given me?
And also Psalm 75.8 about the cup of the Lord.
Right, so what's the cup representing here?
Well, think of this cup as representing the full spectrum of human experience, good, bad, all of it.
Okay.
And Goddard uses this to kind of set the stage for understanding our active role in, creating that experience.
Got it. And to really drive this point home, he shares a pretty powerful personal vision he had. This was, 30 years before this lecture?
Yeah, around then.
Okay, so picture this. An infinite, massive field of sunflowers just stretching out forever.
Beautiful, right? And deeply connected.
Yeah, he describes how if just one of them bent over, all of them bent over together, in unison.
Like a single organism almost.
Exactly. This image of total interconnectedness, complete harmony.
But here's the fascinating part. The contrast he felt within that unity.
Right, even while seeing this profound connection.
He felt an even greater sense of individual liberty, freedom, as the observer.
More free than all those unified sunflowers combined. That's interesting.
It is. And he links this straight to Romans 8.20.
Which talks about being subjected to futility, but in hope.
Yeah, in hope of being set free, attaining the glorious liberty of the sons of God.
So the connection for us is maybe that this feeling of limitation, this futility in our lives, is actually somehow a necessary step towards realizing a greater individual freedom later on.
That seems to be his implication, yeah. That the limitation serves a purpose for freedom.
Okay, so if we tie this all together, Goddard's saying our very presence here, like your individual experience, my experience, it signals a kind of detachment, a separation from that original unified field of beauty, the sunflowers.
Right. We're not part of that single chorus moving together anymore.
Instead, we've become, completely separate. He uses the term completely incarnated.
In this complete incarnation, this feeling of being a distinct individual, with your own thoughts, your own feelings, that's absolutely crucial for individuality itself to develop.
Right. But then he says something pretty stark. He calls our current separated state hell.
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from that word. Now, he's probably not talking about, a fiery afterlife in the traditional sense.
Okay. So what does he mean by hell?
By hell, he seems to be emphasizing the feeling of being cut off, isolated, maybe even that deep-seated fear of separation from the source, what he calls the Father.
That feeling of separateness itself is the hell.
That seems to be the core of it for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. While maybe uncomfortable, it's central to his understanding of our current reality.
But then he quickly offers reassurance, doesn't he? Based on his own experiences.
He does. He says that this fear of separation, ultimately it's unfounded.
How so?
He states pretty clearly that you will find the Father. And the big surprise, the twist, is that you'll discover the Father as yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so this whole journey of separation, this incarnation, it's not a punishment.
No, not as he sees it. It serves a really important divine purpose.
And what is that purpose?
The core purpose, according to Goddard, of this whole journey of feeling separate is to cultivate within ourselves the spirit of Jesus, which is continual forgiveness of sin.
Continual forgiveness.
Yeah. And he shares his own really powerful experience of feeling God as pure love, being embraced by the risen Christ. That personal experience really underpins his whole understanding here.
Okay, and this leads us to another really powerful, maybe the central statement. Love divided from imagination is eternal death.
That's the one. It's huge.
Okay, let's really try to get into this. He uses an example, right? A relatable one.
Yeah, about a friend. Imagine you have a friend who's unemployed, really struggling.
Yeah.
You can feel immense love, empathy, offer practical support.
Sure.
But Goddard argues that love alone, without actively engaging your imagination to feel a better reality for them, will inadvertently just keep them stuck in that state.
Really? So love isn't enough?
Not love divided from imagination. Think of it like this. Empathy, without envisioning a solution, is like, I don't know, diagnosing an illness, but never prescribing the treatment.
Ah, okay. I see.
Goddard's saying true, effective love requires that active, creative force of your imagination to actually bring about positive change.
Wow, okay. That's a different way of looking at love.
It is. And what's fascinating is how he connects the ability to truly understand this power of imagination with having, quote, tasted this cup of experience.
The cup again, the experience of being separate.
Exactly. Is through navigating the challenges, the ups and downs of this individual life that we really start to grasp the transformative potential hidden within our own imagination.
So we have to live through this hell of separation to learn how to use the tool that gets us out, essentially.
That seems to be the paradox he's presenting, yes.
Okay, so what exactly is this imagination he keeps talking about?
Well, he defines it as God's great gift, his creative power of himself to man.
God's creative power given to us.
Yeah. And he directly equates it with Jesus Christ, referencing 1 Corinthians, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God.
So imagination is Christ, in his view.
Or at least it's the power and wisdom of God within us, personified as Christ. Think of it like an architect imagining a building, right?
Yeah.
In vivid detail, before it's built.
Right.
Goddard believes our imagination works like that it precedes and actively shapes our reality. It's the blueprint.
The blueprint of our lives. That makes sense.
Yeah, this is crucial. For him, imagination isn't just, wishful thinking or random daydreams.
Right.
It's the fundamental power of creation itself. And it resides within every single one of us.
Okay, so the practical application then. How do we use this?
It's incredibly profound, really. He explains that if you genuinely love someone who's going through a hard time, the most powerful thing you can do is use your imagination to vividly represent them to yourself, as you would ideally like them to be.
So see them happy, healthy, successful, whatever it is.
Exactly. Happy, healthy, prosperous, fulfilled. And then you have to persistently dwell in that assumption. Really feel it is real now.
Persist in it. Okay. And what does he think happens then?
He goes on to suggest that if you consistently hold that imagined state, really make it feel real within you, the world around that person, and by extension, the reality you both share, has the potential to actually remold itself to match that sustained imaginative act.
Whoa, remold itself. That's radical.
Yeah, it is pretty radical. It suggests this deep, deep interconnectedness between our inner imaginative world and the outer reality we see and experience.
Definitely. He uses parables to illustrate this further, right? Like the prodigal son.
He does. We mostly know the story, right?
Yeah.
Younger son takes his inheritance, blows it all.
Yeah, lives it up, then ends up broke.
Right.
Yeah.
Humbled, goes home. Father throws a massive party.
While the older son, who stayed home and worked, is kind of resentful?
Exactly. And the father's response to that older son is the key for Goddard.
What does he say again?
Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours.
Ah, okay. So how does Goddard interpret that?
He sees it, meaning that the elder son, even though he had constant access to everything the father owned, he didn't truly know how to appropriate it, how to make it real in his own experience. Precisely because he had never departed. He never went through that experience of separation, of lack, of needing to come back.
So our detachment, our separation, it's necessary.
That's his point. He draws a direct parallel. This feeling of separation, maybe feeling negative or isolating, is actually a necessary stage for us to learn how to effectively use the power of imagination.
So the elder son had the potential but lacked the lived experience to actually use it.
Or even appreciate it, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Goddard's take. The separation teaches us how to wield the power we inherently possess.
Okay. Then he brings up another parable, one that's maybe less obvious. The unjust steward.
Right, this one can be a bit confusing at first glance.
It's the story of the manager about to be fired for messing up the accounts, right?
Yep. And to secure his future, he quickly goes to his master's debtors and tells them to write off part of their debt.
And the weird part is the master actually commends him for being shrewd.
Exactly. Seems like praising dishonesty, right?
Totally.
But Goddard digs into the original meaning. He says, steward, back then, could essentially mean the keeper of the pig.
The keeper of the pig. Okay, well, where is he going with this?
Well, the pig, he points out, is actually a recurring universal symbol for the Savior.
Huh. Interesting.
So keeping the pig becomes, in this context, analogous to accepting, embodying the story of salvation.
Like accepting the inner power.
Kind of. He links it to eat my body and drink my blood, fully embracing that transformative power within.
Okay, so the steward falsifying the records, reducing the debts. What's the metaphor there?
It's not about literal financial cheating. It's a metaphor for how we can revise our internal records.
Our memories, beliefs.
Exactly. Our memories, belief, perceptions of negative situations in our own lives.
How does that work, practically?
He gives the example of, say, a troubled marriage. Instead of constantly replaying arguments, focusing on what's wrong.
Which is easy to do.
Totally. He suggests you intentionally falsify the record. Consciously choose to remember and focus on the good stuff. The connection, the love.
Actively adjust the internal narrative.
Precisely. Shift your dominant thoughts and feelings away from the negative. Even if the past events happen, you choose where to place your focus now.
So it's about changing your present experience of the past.
Yes. He admits you might not erase past hurts instantly, but you can definitely make a significant shift by focusing on what you want to experience moving forward.
Okay. He then kind of circles back to this idea of separation, right? This world of hell we're in.
Yeah, he notes that in this state, there's a really strong, almost automatic tendency towards self-justification. Blame.
He started it, it's her fault, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Defending our position constantly.
Oh, but he contrasts that with heaven.
Right, which he describes as a state of all forgiveness of sin. Why? Because, as he keeps saying,
all things exist in the human imagination. Okay, I'm starting to see the pattern.
So, if you're experiencing something negative out there, he argues it's ultimately reflecting something unresolved or unloving within you.
Oof, that's taking responsibility.
It is. The real solution isn't pointing fingers, but changing it within yourself. Through forgiveness, through imaginative revision.
Forgive it by changing it in me. That's the phrase.
That's it.
Okay. But despite this feeling of separation, maybe struggle, he offers reassurance again.
A profound reassurance, yeah. He says you will ultimately meet the Father, the Source, and that Father is eternally within you already.
And then there's that intriguing bit about meeting David and recognizing him as son.
Yeah, that's a bit mystical.
Yeah.
For Goddard, it seems less about a literal meeting with King David.
Okay.
And more a symbolic representation of awakening to your own true divine nature, the Christ consciousness within.
Realizing your own divinity.
He even brings in Ecclesiastes 3.11 about God putting eternity into our minds, but in a way we can't fully grasp it yet.
Until the appointed time, maybe.
Perhaps. He frames our initial detachment, this whole separation thing, as an intentional act of love.
Love. How so?
On the part of the divine. It's a necessary step for our individualization and for our eventual awakening.
So we had to be separate to become individuals.
That's the idea. This complete immersion in individual experience, even with the feelings of isolation or limitation, is essential for us to eventually wake up and realize the big truth. I am he who subjected me. Meaning we recognize our own divinity. We become or realize we always were God the Father.
Wow. Okay, so the big question then is, how do we actually start doing this in our daily lives?
Goddard's very direct here. He says, actively exercise your imagination. Start using it consciously.
And he reminds us that everyone we meet...
Right. Everyone in your world is, in a very real sense, yourself projected outward. They're all yourself, anyway.
That's a mind bender.
It is. And he specifically tells you to consciously imagine others, and yourself too, in a more glorious light, a more ideal state.
And resist that urge to justify the negative stuff, like thinking, oh, they deserve it.
Exactly. Resist that urge. He brings in Psalm 51.4, against thee, O Lord, thee only have I sinned.
How does that fit?
To emphasize that our primary, most fundamental relationship is with our own I am, that divine awareness within us, God within.
So if I see something negative, it's primarily about my relationship with my own inner state.
That's how he frames it. Encountering negativity isn't a sign of external forces against you. It's an opportunity.
An opportunity to change it.
Yes, to consciously use your imagination to represent that situation or that person differently in your inner world.
He shares a personal experience related to this, right? From 1946.
He does, a really transformative one where he felt lifted up and saw all of humanity made perfect. Just underscoring the incredible power of this inner work. He keeps coming back to that core principle. Everything in this world is yourself pushed out.
Yourself pushed out, okay.
And Goddard shares this really profound insight from his own journey. He says he feels he has, quote, drunk that cup to the very dregs.
Meaning he's experienced everything.
The full spectrum of human roles, the honored, the dishonored, all of it. And he assures you, the listener, that you too are playing all the parts in your reality.
Even if we're not aware of it.
Right. Even if you're not consciously aware right now.
Okay, so this understanding, it leads to a call to action then.
A powerful one. He really encourages you to actively use your imagination to transform things. Even situations that feel totally stuck, permanent.
Like someone feeling perpetually ignored or unloved.
Exactly. By imaginatively representing them as cherished, valued, loved.
Yeah.
You are, in essence, doing what?
Changing them in my imagination.
Yes, and because they are you pushed out, you are ultimately saving them.
Saving myself by changing my perception of them.
Or rather, changing the imaginative act that's projecting them that way.
Yeah.
He connects this separation from God with a kind of spiritual death.
And reunion through imagination is becoming alive again.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He uses that powerful metaphor from John 12, the seed falling to the ground.
It has to die to bring forth new life.
Exactly.
Huh.
And he identifies the physical body, this earthly vessel, as the red earth, called Adam, the ground where the seed of imagination can take root and transform everything.
Okay. So, wrapping up, his main point is that creation isn't over.
Not at all. It's continuous, ongoing, happening right now through your imagination.
And he urges us to begin with self.
Yes. First, vividly imagine your own desired state. Feel it. Then persistently dwell in that assumption until it hardens into fact, into your reality.
And this is possible because of that divine gift.
God's creative power, imagination, Jesus Christ as he equates it, that's what enables this transformation.
He sounds like he felt he had really grasped something profound.
Yeah, he shares this deep sense of completion, fulfillment, but also, paradoxically, this compelling need to keep sharing the message.
And he ends with that statement about death.
Right at the end. Death is the last enemy to be overcome. And he expresses this real excitement, anticipating seeing listeners achieve this ultimate realization.
Wow, okay. It certainly gives you a lot to think about.
Definitely.
Goddard's teachings, as we've kind of explored in this deep dive, they offer a compelling perspective on imagination's role.
Its fundamental role in shaping not just our inner world, but the very fabric of reality we perceive.
And just to reiterate, this whole discussion, it's grounded right in the source material you shared with us. We're exploring his ideas here.
Exactly. Which leads to, I think, a really important question for you, for anyone listening, to just ponder.
Okay.
How consciously, how consistently are you currently directing your imagination to shape your reality and maybe the reality of those around you?
That's a challenging question.
It is. And considering Goddard's insights, what might fundamentally shift in your life if you embrace this power more fully, if you really understood love and imagination not as separate,
but as inseparable forces?
Yeah, inseparable essential forces in the ongoing act of creation. What might change then?
Definitely some profound food for thought there. We really hope you'll continue exploring these ideas. Maybe even, go back to the original source material yourself.
Dive even deeper into Neville Goddard's message.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.